There wasn't any time to make a proper plan on how to get out of the classroom to the roof as quickly as possible. They all knew that the helicopter would be gone sooner rather than later and stop its search, and worse was that it was riling up the zombies even more. Not to mention it was the middle of the day and all the zombies outside could see them clearly. "We need to go now," Cheong-san said, and some of the others wanted to protest. "What about the zombies outside?" asked Hyo-ryung nervously. Everyone stopped for a moment as they looked outside at the snarling faces. "We don't have a choice. What if that helicopter leaves because they couldn't find anyone alive here? There's no guarantee that they'll come back." That almost seemed to kick some of the others into gear as they looked around the room for a way out. They couldn't climb outside. There were no sheets, and that would take too long, but there was another option. Go through the door. Namra and Anjo were scanning the room till their eyes landed on the TV. They turned to each other as they had the same thought at the moment. Namra rushed to the TV looking to see if it was still working with Soo-hyuk following behind her. It took a second or two before the TV whirled to life loudly, immediately attracting the attention of some of the nearby zombies. A lot of zombies started moving to the left side of the classroom trying to barge in. "What's with the noise?" Junyoung shouted, trying to block the windows as fast as he could. It took a moment to click on what she was doing, but as soon as he got it, Cheong-san turned around and shouted to the others, "Everyone start building a barricade in the center of the classroom now!" It was getting more chaotic as more zombies that seemed to be on the floor were gathering on the left side of the classroom, trying to get inside. Namra raised the volume on the TV to its maximum before she grabbed Soo-hyuk's hand and rushed with him over to the other side of the room. "Why are we building a barricade?" Dae-soo asked, wanting to know how he could be useful, and Cheong-san turned to him and the others with a fearful yet determined glare. "We are going to let them in." Cheong-san could see the fearful looks on their faces, but there was no time for this. "We are going to let them in on the other side of the classroom, and when a lot of them are inside, we use the other door to escape and rush to the roof as fast as we can." The plan was simple. Well, that's how it appeared. He just hoped they didn't lose anyone during it. "It's going to get here soon, so move it now!" Namra shouted, kicking everyone into gear as they rushed to build the barricade. Na-Yeon was doing her best to be helpful, handing chairs and other things she could lift with her small frame to the others. She was shaking like a leaf. This was it. They were going to step outside, to the roof, but it was still outside. The dreams she had of her being eaten as soon as she left the room were flashing in her head, and she didn't realize she had stopped moving, frozen, breathing heavily and shaking till she felt arms wrapped around her. The whisper of sweet nothings was something she didn't know she needed at the moment. "It's going to be okay, Na-Yeon. I'll keep you safe, okay?" Cheong-san whispered into her ear as he held her tightly, stroking her back and muttering more reassuring words. "I know it's scary, but I need you, okay? I need you to watch out for me and the others, okay?" She nodded into his shoulder as she held him tightly in an attempt to ground herself, and it seemed to work. Na-Yeon knew she needed to do this. She could put on a brave face for the moment, till whatever the result of this was over when they made it to the roof. Salvation was so close. "So stay close to me," Cheong-san said, pulling back and placing a kiss on her forehead. He gave her a small nod as he turned back to help build the barricade. She took a deep breath before she, too, went back to helping as best as she could. It took way less time than they thought for them to build the barrier, especially with some of the others constantly asking Namra if the helicopter was still in the area. "Now someone needs to open the door?" Soo-hyuk said, looking at the others, but he knew he was already going to volunteer. "I'll do it." That surprised everyone, especially as it was Namra. "What? Why?" He wasn't going to let her do this. It made sense for him to do it. He was the most athletic out of all of them, plus he would be keeping them safe. "I don't think the zombies will attack me." That seemed to surprise everyone. "What makes you even sure that? But Soo-hyuk was cut off by her glare. "I tested it out last night when I went to the window. And it worked. I guess it makes sense since I'm part zombie now." She could tell Soo-hyuk wanted to argue more on it, but there was no time. "We don't have time, I'm our best hope," she said, as she quickly jumped over the barricade to the other side. Soo-hyuk tried to follow her, but the rest of the group held him back with a struggle as he watched on helplessly as she approached the door. Namra reached the door and spared a glance back. She hoped her theory was right, because if she was wrong, she didn't want to think about that. She unlocked the door and swung it open, and the zombies brushed past her with terrifying speed to the corner with the TV, and some of them noticed the humans and rushed towards them. Namra could see some faces of students she recognized rushing past her, and some teachers. Now they were all disfigured and bloody. The others held the barricade as the zombies pushed on it, with some of the group climbing on top and hitting down the strays that tried to climb over. Namra looked outside to make sure they had as many as they could, even attracting strays by making noise, and within moments, the room was packed. She could hear the groaning of her friends and the furniture as they held back the horde. "That's it now!" she shouted as she got outside and closed the door on the left side of the classroom, rushing to the other side. Anjo opened the door, and before long, the rest of the group was rushing out with their makeshift armor worn and even more makeshift shields. It was a quick dash to the top of the roof, mostly unobstructed with them knocking any zombies they saw down the stairs. Through it all, Cheong-san held Na-Yeon's hand firmly to make sure that she kept up with the others. They got to the roof door. "It's approaching!" Namra shouted to the group, and they could hear the helicopter hovering around the school. It seemed like it was looking or waiting. But the door was locked as Anjo tried to open it. "I can't open it!" she shouted to the others, and Namra rushed up. "I think it needs a code," she said as she rushed to type it in. Meanwhile, on the other side of the school, Guinam had been walking around the school feeling hungry, but whatever food he found didn't seem to sate his hunger. Until he saw the zombies running around and then the loud sound of static in his ears, the sound of the helicopter had not been a bother. They were people, was Cheong-san, and his little group of posers still alive, he thought with a snarl as he rushed to the floor. Reaching the floor, he was led by the sound of static to a classroom that was packed with zombies, mindlessly beating on a barrier, and some distracted by the TV. He knew that those little pests were still alive, and now he also wanted to kill the one that had thrown him out of the building. He grabbed a chair and flung it at the TV, destroying it, as the zombies seemed confused for a moment. "Idiots!" he screamed out as he broke a table and ripped a metal leg from it as he headed outside, banging on the sides of the hallway and classroom, breaking windows as he did. He could smell them. They were close, and as he got to the stairwell, he knew where they were. "Got you," he said with a smile on his face as he led the zombies up the stairs and headed for the roof. "We need to get it open now," Cheong-san said, as Dae-soo and Soo-hyuk were trying to open the door. "We opened it, but something is blocking it," Namra said, as they kept on charging it, only moving it for a few centimeters. Now they didn't need Namra's super hearing, as the chopper was now hovering right about the school and seemed to have stopped. "Did they see us?" everyone thought hopefully. "Are they coming for us?" "Oh, there you are," they heard a voice say, and turned to see a bloody-looking Guinam. Soo-hyuk couldn't believe it, because he had thrown this guy out of the building near the upper floors. How was he alive? Judging by the self-satisfied grin on his face, he was taking pleasure in their shocked looks. "And I brought some friends." As soon as he said that, some zombies rushed up the stairs from behind him and started attacking the group. Cheong-san held up the shields with Jang Woo-jin and Jun Yong, and moments later, Dae-soo came down to support them with his large frame.
"I am going to let them eat all your little friends, but you are mine,"
Guinam shouted, and deep down he could feel that hunger growing inside him the closer he got to the group. He started swinging his metal pole, but they swung back. He could feel his hunger and anger grow, and his eyes stopped when he looked at Na-Yeon, that pretentious little rich bitch. His grin grew wilder as he pointed at her. "You are going to be a nice little snack," he said with a terrifying smile that seemed to freeze her form. "I'm hungry," Guinam shouted as he made for a leap over the horde of zombies, but it was quickly cut short as Cheong-san's bat met his face and sent him reeling back.
Don't you dare touch her!
Cheong-san shouted. Guinam knew it took a lot to kill him now, but he could still feel pain.
Cheong-san, you bastard! I'll kill you and your little girlfriend, too!
They started swinging at each other, with Guinam being knocked back every time, till he felt himself get more and more frustrated. How long was Cheong-san going to keep getting away with it? He was a nobody. How could he disrespect him like this and look down on him? He let out a roar as he made for another lunge, and Cheong-san was ready to intercept him again. But this time, Guinam grabbed the bat with his hand. They both looked at each other, Cheong-san with a shocked look on his face, and Guinam with that terrifying smile before he shattered the bat in his grasp. Namra had been watching closely. Her friends were losing. Were they really going to die here, after all they had done to get here and all that they had lost? She wasn't going to accept that, and after seeing Guinam's display of strength, she reached deep down for her own and jumped. Guinam was reaching out for Cheong-san, the little nobody who was going to finally meet his end, and he was going to take his eye. He felt it more than heard it, as his head was slammed into the wall, creating a visible crater and a sickening crunch from his skull. All of the group survivors were shocked as they saw Namra punch him into the wall and then, as if he weighed nothing, booted him down at the zombies, creating space. With a swiftness that seemed superhuman, she chucked him again down the stairs and killed some of the zombies single-handed. She walked up the stairs as the group gave her a wide berth. Namra walked up to the door and with one well-planted kick sent the door wide open. The others could hear some of the zombies getting back up, the ones she hadn't destroyed, and they rushed out to the roof. But as they reached it and looked up, they could see the helicopter leaving. "Come back! We're right here. Please come back!" Some of the group screamed, but they knew it was futile, as the helicopter kept going. Namra secured the doors and turned to the rest of the group on the roof. Even she didn't know she could do this. "Someone was here," Cheong-san said, his voice low with Na-Yeon and Anjo standing beside him as they looked at the SOS symbols on the roof. "That means they locked us in there and blocked off the door," Anjo said bitterly, and Cheong-san couldn't believe it. He felt a small hand slip into his as Na-Yeon laced her fingers with him, and the thought of hatred towards someone doing this to them faded. As he glanced at her, then at Anjo and the rest of the group, he gave her hand a small squeeze. All of them had made it, and they hadn't lost anyone. That was a small win that he chose to savor at that moment. The rest would come soon enough.